called the Radiant. And the Radiant Sutra is one, if any of you are familiar with Coleman Barks's translations of Rumi or Daniel Ladinsky's translations of Hafiz, there's a form of poetry translation that rather than doing transliteration, tries to capture the actual spirit of the text. And this one is done by Lauren Roche. And I think really captures the essence of these sutras. Now, what they are is actually a dialogue between Shiva and his wife. She asks him, how do you attain enlightenment? And so each chapter is a path to enlightenment. Now, this is the path we're on that we're talking about right now, which is the path through the senses, okay? How do we attain enlightenment? How do we unite with God? And the answer is exactly through the energy that exists, the union that exists between us and the energetic world out there. And the medium for that is our senses, not our mind, not our emotions, but that direct perception. So all around you, in every moment, the world is offering a feast for your senses. Songs are playing, tasty food is on the table, fragrances are in the air, colors fill the eyes with light. You who long for union, attend this banquet with loving focus. Okay, listen to those words, with loving focus. The outer and inner worlds open to each other. Oneness of vision, oneness of heart. Right here in the midst of it all, merge with the elation. Okay? Become identical with the ecstatic essence, embracing both worlds. So again, when you listen to spiritual poetry, you're looking at a roadmap, and it gives a roadmap in here. Inner and outer worlds open to each other. So in mindfulness, we're opening, learning to maintain a field of awareness which isn't stuck with attention in the inner world or the outer world, but is aware of the impact between those two, where the two meet through our senses. And what we're told is right here, if we can accomplish this union, this letting go of the separation between me and this, there's nothing there, there's a continuity of energy transfer there, that we'll experience an elation, an ecstatic essence of who we are. And so this morning, I'm glad we have some of our new people here. You hear me talk about the way that psychology has changed in the past, since about 1990. And I dug out a couple of readings to kind of show you. So what did I do with my phone? Here it is. It used to be I would shuffle through papers looking for what I'd done. Now I shuffle through my phone. Oh, oops, clicked off. So, a neurobiologist shocked the world when she uncovered the truth about mental health field that no one else was brave enough to share. By the way, that's social media bullshit. This is all over the internet. She said psychology is based on theories, not on the biomechanics of how the neural pathways in the brain actually work. So, most therapy models were created before we discovered and understood how the brain, how the nervous system operates, which is through neural pathways, through neuroplasticity, the capacity of the brain to let go of neural pathways and develop new ones, memory reconsolidation, predictive processing, anatomic regulation, circadian biology, which is one of the ways that the ancient texts are being validated by what modern science is discovering. So when you're in our groups, what we're doing is taking ancient wisdom, showing how people were using internal perceptions, which we have ignored, to come to what are now being validated by Western science and by the external part of the world. If this makes any sense. Meaning our mental health system was built on theories, not neuromechanics and biological science. Psychoanalysis began to emerge in the 1890s with Freud, Jung, Adler, and the great American psychoanalyst Henry James, who most people don't mention. Then we had the rise of behaviorism, lab rats trying to do things with B.F. Skinner. Then humanistic therapy began to emerge in the 1950s, cognitive behavioral therapy only in the 1960s and 80s. Neuroscience transformed everything when we began to look in the brain, see what was happening with functional MRIs, and develop tools fine enough to get down to watch how neural pathways be formed in the brain. And that has changed everything. Many psychological theories aren't just outdated, they unintentionally reinforce the very neural pathways keeping people stuck. And that's the importance of trauma theory. Trauma theory looked and saw by repeating stories, telling stories, journaling about all this stuff, people actually were staying stuck because that simply reinforced the trauma in the brain. Every experience you have, every thought you think, every emotion you feel, fires a network of neurons that either, listen to this, creates new pathways or strengthens old ones. The only options we've got. Brain doesn't give you any others. Okay? How much of the brain function depends on neural pathways? People would guess 50%, 80%. Every answer is wrong. All brain functions emerge from neural circuits, pathways formed by networks of neurons. The amygdala doesn't create emotion or trauma, its pathways do. The hippocampus doesn't store memory, its pathways do. Prefrontal cortex doesn't generate reasoning, its circuits do. Hormones aren't controlled by glands, they're controlled by circuits regulating them. No mental or behavioral function bypasses neural circuits. Let me say that again. No mental or behavioral, including spiritual processes, bypasses neural circuits. Our mental health models did not account for any of this. Imagine auto mechanics trained in theories of how engines work, but never taught the actual mechanics that make the engine run. Diagnoses are based on guesses, not on reality. Now, what has that got to do with things? It's been an emergence, and I'm just going to touch on a couple this morning. One of the things that emerges is what we call evolutionary psychology, that when we look at the brain, we begin to see how the brain evolved and what the mechanics are for. And because of that, we can say our brains are mismatched. Our brains are designed to live in a world that existed 100,000 years ago. And your biology doesn't adapt fast enough for the changing circumstances we've got. So we've got a very poorly designed machine for processing the world as it's coming in. So let's look at what that means in real terms. Scientists found a new fear that humans didn't have 100 years ago. One researcher said this shift in humans was that we used to fear animals, injury, and hunger. Now the biggest fear is I can't cope. Okay? When I say we're fear-based, it doesn't necessarily mean that I'm sitting and thinking of fear of animals or anything dramatic. It's the pressure that you feel that I'm about to be overwhelmed by life. Can anybody give me an amen on that? Okay. It's quiet but constant, and the brain treats it like a real predator. That's what it means. It doesn't distinguish between I'm late for a meeting and I'm about to get eaten by a dinosaur. The cortisol, the adrenaline that's being released, the impact on your body is in a dire survival mode in response to this subtle pressure. They call this anticipatory overwhelm, the fear that the next task, message, responsibility, or request is going to overwhelm me. One woman said she wakes up afraid of her to-do list, not the actual events, but the pressure behind them. Scientists found that this fear activates the same part of the brain that used to react to physical danger. The body prepares for a threat that never arrives, which makes people exhausted before the day even begins. Another strange feeling is that this modern fear spreads through speed when everything moves fast. News, work, opinions, deadlines, the nervous system takes on a pace it was never designed for. One man said he feels behind even when nothing is actually happening. Researchers compared this to running on a treadmill you didn't choose, but you can't get off. That sense of losing control is the new trigger. And for any of you doing trauma therapy, loss of control is the fundamental trigger for PTSD. It underlies almost everything. So this sense of urgency going on in modern life puts us in a constant state of reinforcing trauma. Psychologists also found that this fear makes people disconnect from their own feelings. Instead of saying, I'm tired, they say, I'm failing. And this is what we mean by shifting to an identity. I now identify with this feeling as some fundamental lack in my being, that there is something wrong with me. And there's not anything wrong with you. It's simply your brain can't deal with what society is sending our way. Does that make sense? Okay. The fear isn't about life, it's about losing your place in it. This makes people withdraw, avoid decisions, or feel empty even on calm days. But the study showed something hopeful. Good, at last. It's Jesus? No, I'm sorry. That was cold. This new fear stops the moment people slow their internal pace. It operates on speed. It's aggravated by speed, not the drug. Speed will increase the anxiety, slowing down automatically. Even small resets, silent, slower movements, single tasking, tell the nervous system the threat is imaginary. So fundamental. We know now your brain wakes up first thing in the morning in fight or flight. Okay, that part of your brain, the sympathetic nervous system wakes up half an hour before your prefrontal cortex does, and it starts anticipating the dangers of your day. So the first thing in the morning that you need to do is to remind yourself, I am safe. Now you can say there's a war in the world, there's pollution. No, that's not what we're talking. We're talking about right now, sitting here in this moment, I am in a safe place, protected. I am with people who represent no threat to me. If you never give that signal to your body, it never relaxes into ventral vagal, which is where the kingdom is. That's what Jesus meant by the kingdom. Another part of your nervous system. So the fact that we're always doing this keeps us from this place within us that is called the original mind. I'm going to get to that in just a second. So first thing in the morning, I'm safe. Then you remind yourself that to get the dopamine going, of things that you're grateful for. Why do we do that? Because gratitude is like a superpower, because it immediately releases dopamine. They found that even if you don't find anything to be grateful for, looking for something to be grateful for triggers the dopamine. Now that shuts off the fight or flight, the adrenaline and the cortisol. Starts some more optimistic things like serotonin and the good neurotransmitters. They're going to open us out to the world. Then esteem yourself. The second thing that you want to give yourself is a message that I can handle this. You're constantly telling yourself, I don't think I can handle this. If you're telling yourself, that's what you hardwire into your brain, your insufficiency, not your sufficiency. So the new therapies work more on remembering how well resourced you are. How many things did you handle yesterday that were difficult for you to handle? Your brain, we know, does not remember that. Your brain will remember everything you didn't get done, but it won't remember the things you did get done. That's shitty, okay? But what spirituality is the discipline of applying what you know to be true to the way my brain works so that I'm counterbalancing its negativity bias, its tendency to go negative on its own. Is this making sense to me? Okay. It's nice to have a live audience that actually nods like this. I wish I could get them to say amen, hallelujah, and a few other things, but I guess that'll come later. Can't have everything.
They're saying it.
Oh, okay, they're nodding too. Now, we're going to give you one more direction. A cognitive scientist viewed a man who had lived for 12 years without a phone. What? Is that even possible? Oh, he was in Bali. That explains it. What they discovered wasn't his calmness, it was the return of deep time perception, a mental state modern brains almost never access. People think phones steal their attention, but they actually steal your sense of continuity. He regained the ability to feel days, to feel seasons, to have his decisions emerge as one coherent timeline and not in reaction to events, something psychologists see as having collapsed in young adults. His memory transformed without the constant digital interruption. His brain restored the spatio-temporal loop, the circuit that binds memory to place. Grounded. It's another aspect of grounding. He could recall conversations from years ago with exact location, smells, and angles of light. This is a characteristic of PTSD, okay? The whole experience, sensual experience of the moment is embedded and never forgotten. Each of those becomes a trigger. When we regain this connection with outside world, the inner state and the outside world with positive states, that's what we call a glimmer. We have to pull forward these moments of connection and being grounded in something positive to balance out, to get back to the light and dark being balanced. Brain's an imbalanced tool at this point. So spirituality, again, is recalling this. Most adults have fragmented recall because the phone breaks the loop every few minutes, making our lives feel disconnected. The most unsettling change was emotional. He regained pre-digital boredom tolerance. I want you to hear that. Pre-digital boredom tolerance. A friend of mine who writes for Tricycle Magazine, he ran the Refuge Meditation Center in Shreveport, Ben Riggs, wrote a book called God and the Body. And he said, boredom is the last room you pass through before you find peace. So when you see us in Zen meditation, looking at a wall or looking at each other, the reason we have no stimulation is to put ourselves in a state of boredom, not give the mind anything to feed on so that it learns to relax. So this is very much what restorative yoga is, or yin yoga is, in that when you stop all this stuff and your muscles feel supported, the deep muscles relax, the ones you really need to get to that you can't get to through stretching because they're way deep to the bone, okay? But when they sense that you're safe, that you're relaxed, that you're not going to be torn apart, they go. The same way with us, if we can tolerate that boredom, which is detox. Think of boredom as detoxing from all the intensity, okay? And then suddenly my brain falls back into this natural state, okay? This state is the state where insight, planning, self-correction happens. And that's why Steve Jobs would meditate a third of his day when he found that life was a struggle, dukkha. He would immediately go in the other room and meditate, shift into ventral vagal, where life feels much more, moves with much more ease. Without this self-correction, people stay impulsive, reactive, and chronically overwhelmed. Now you have your solution. What do? You unplug, okay? Even for a few minutes a day, people say, I can't do that. Even if you practice your meditation, I encourage drive-by meditation. You're driving in your car, stop at a red light instead of going, God damn motherfucker, I'm going to be late, okay? you realize you got a death grip on the steering wheel, and you go, you say, what a great advantage to recognize everything's tense, land in the present moment, take a deep breath, self-correct. At the office, you're doing that, okay? Stand up, walk around, connect with the room, take a few deep breaths, do a couple yoga poses. If you want a great one, if you're feeling overwhelmed and inadequate, two that actually increase your testosterone level. And yes, testosterone is a good thing because it reinforces our sense of competency and agency. Is Goddess Warrior, okay, is a good one, or Mountain. Do it for 2 minutes, bam, reset your nervous system. Okay. So let's go ahead and click off that. So what we're doing, let's get rid of all the mysticism. And I was thinking about this a little bit. There are all kinds of spiritual systems out there that want to take you to some extraordinary experience in your brain, like tripping with acid, doing mushrooms, real popular, ecstasy, an altered state of consciousness. Altered states of consciousness are not spirituality, period, okay? Yes, they're fascinating. So what is spirituality, okay? If spirit is energy, okay, then spirituality is the study of how energy moves, all right? Buddhism keeps it real simple. One, you're struggling. Life feels uncomfortable. Okay, that's the diagnosis. I feel something's wrong. I don't know what's wrong, okay? So second noble truth is the reason you feel out of joint, the reason things are struggling, is self-centered desire. Okay? How do I get back to feeling ease? By letting go of self-centered desire. Okay? This is hell. This is constriction. Anytime you're constricted, you're suffering. That's the Buddhist definition of suffering. That's what I add to the experience. So the energy coming in is totally neutral. This is neutral. Okay? It's not good, it's not bad, it just is. But my nervous system avoids discomfort, and it pursues pleasure. As soon as it starts doing that, we start constricting. What's the solution? Get bigger, open, soften. So what we study is moving from this to this, noticing during your day. How many times do you do this? How quickly do I get back to this? So as we meditate today, listen to the cues as invitations to be mindful. You can't go from this to this without being mindful in the moment. The minute that you do this, you become disconnected from what's happening internally. All the stuff that got promised about your original mind gets lost. You can't use it as a resource or an ally if you're not in the present moment. So Omi, go ahead and fire up the gong. Again, listen to the gong as an invitation to presence. First sounding, okay, I'm in the present moment, I hear the gong. By the time the second gong happened, boom, where was I? I'm already drifted off. Oh God, I'm going to be there for the third one. No, you're not. And that's okay, that's normal. So just see, okay, and let it trail off and try and find the point where the gong is silent. And here's a clue, the gong is never silent. Never silent. Begin by feeling yourself on your seat, feeling the earth supporting you. Your cushion is called the diamond throne. It recalls the moment that the Buddha sat and claimed his right to enlightenment. And when the devil challenged him, he simply touched the earth, and the earth affirmed him and said, "This is my son." Sit with dignity and ease. As you follow the rhythm of the breath, draw up the energies of the earth. They're stabilizing, grounding, feeling the pull of gravity as the love of the earth inviting you. Come, all ye who travail and are heavy laden, I'll refresh you. That's a promise. But we have to be present to get it. Feeling gravity, draw your energetic roots into the earth like a tree. Knowing this is your home. This field of energy that you sit on is your place. And as you inhale, feel that dark, moist, heavy, grounding, feminine energy, the yin, rising up through your chakras, floor of the pelvis. Your mantra is, I am safe, I belong. And then with the out breath, let go of all the energy that's in your body that you've inadvertently trapped, and expand and release. The universe can take all your energies that you can't use and use it as nutrients for other life forms, completing a cycle. So feel no guilt or shame or judgment about what you draw in or what you release. Simply delighting in the flow of energy that the sutra promised. Feeling the truth of your connection through gravity, the love of the earth. I am safe, I belong. into second chakra, just above the belly button, below the belly button, above the pubic bone. Feeling that emptiness that we carry. It's a spiritual emptiness. Not filled by food, relationships, acquisition. It's filled by this energy. As you soften, as you open, draw that energy into your emptiness, your manna. We don't live by bread alone. Just like a tree, do not be concerned. You don't have to beg or plead. Or even ask, could I have a little water today? A little sunlight, maybe some minerals? No, take what you need. It's yours, given. I take without fear, without shame. Those life-nourishing energies. This is the center of reciprocity. No giver, no receiver. Each the giver, each the receiver. Softening, opening, receiving, and giving like the breath, natural flow of energy. Freely receiving with gratitude, without fear or shame. Rooted in the energies of the earth, I let that energy move up to the solar plexus. And here's where the feeling of not enough is answered. This is where we regain our sense of capacity, being filled with energy, feeling a capacity to deal with whatever comes my way today. Not my will, but thy will be done. I'm connected to the energy and the rhythms of life acting through me. And trusting with that energy and awareness that I can move through situations with grace. I am worthy just as I am. Nothing to add, nothing to subtract. I lose the word perfection, try worthy. Like a mountain rooted deep in the earth, able to withstand winds and rains, snow melt, rock slides, cracked open by cold, by plants, but still here. Not the ego, not the separate self, but the sacred aware of itself through me. drawing those energies up into the heart. I open my heart to the world. Freely giving all the energies I'm receiving without fear of criticism or judgment, without concern for the results. I'm awake. There's no constriction that's permanent. Powers of life invite me to open and soften. I'm finding my way moment by moment back to softness, openness. Knowing that openness is bliss. Openness is who you are. It's the most fundamental feeling. So whenever you close to the moment, resisting emotions, people, situations, sensations, you deny your true identity. All constriction is ego. The path to openness and bliss is the solution. Body soft. Receptive. Deeply trusting. Relishing in sensation. Positive and negative. The mind open like the sky, clinging to nothing, resisting nothing. The heart open in its natural state of compassion. Freely giving and receiving. So there. And that was so humming.
So hummy.
So, okay, so this is the period for questions, comments. Okay, so
Oh,
let's
good.
remember to speak up so our virtual people.
So I was thinking, when you said comfort and pleasures, I was thinking of Tolstoy's book. It's a very short story. It's called The Death of Ivan
Iliad,
Denisovich.
yeah.
And it's a story about a man who all his life craved for comfort
Right.
in life. And at the end, he is in agony, dying, because all his life he was seeking that comfort, something very external, and how at the end of life he realized he didn't live. And then I remembered, I think I was reading Irving Yalom, and he is talking about the death of the terror of death being proportional to the life unlived.
Okay. Okay, did people hear that? Okay, so she was referring back to Tolstoy's Ivan Ilyich, which is a story of a man who wanted comfort, sought comfort all his life, and died never finding it because he was looking for it externally, and compared that to a person who said that the fear of death is proportional to how much life we're not living. I love that because that's exactly the insight that David Data has in here, that to the extent that we're alienated from our openness, we feel unfulfilled. We don't understand that. Or how many of you feel an urge to be free of what's going on? Like that image of being on a treadmill that's going so fast you can't step off. We never ask, what is that? What does freedom mean? It's that internal sense of openness. Okay, we want that spaciousness, that ease of continuity. That's what I didn't get into, and I will next time, is what is the original mind? Okay, so the original mind is that mind that you had as a child that was not locked into clock time. And you remember how when you were in that eternity of play with your playmates, and your parents would go, "Get in the house." You couldn't extract yourself from it because it was so full. You didn't want to go in the house. "God damn it, girl, get in here, I'll whip your ass," And then they have to drag you out of that. We've allowed ourselves to be drug out of the kingdom into this and told that the demands, because they're so life-threatening, they're registered as our body, that you are literally going to die if you don't meet every deadline. Every box get ticked off. That's the way the brain exposes it. Where is it? Well, what's going to happen if you don't do that? Well, people won't like me, or I'll lose my job. Well, what's going to happen then? Well, I'm going to end up penniless and homeless, living in a box under the Texas Street Bridge. That's what we think is going to happen. That doesn't happen. But we don't know that. So look at how everything points us back to having the courage to live, the courage to answer that fear and walk through the fear to claim what's yours to get. Now, what you're saying is, what's the guardian? The guardian is, I'm looking externally for comfort, for some sign externally. No. It's like Fra Giovanni says, there's a lot that's given, but you have to show up and take it. So when we take this, when we get on the diamond throne, we're saying, I'm ready for my bliss. I'm ready to claim my inheritance. I'm the prodigal son. I'm returning. I'm saying, shoot, I've heard abundance is out here. Now, if I'm grasping for abundance, I won't get it. That's the backwards law.
That's the seeking.
That's the seeking. That's all you're seeking. So why Father Kennedy used to walk in at the beginning of our Zen, Zazen. There will be no serious spiritual striving. There will be no intense introspection. There will be no self-improvement. Just sit.
That's it.
Well, what am I going to do? Just sit, get bored. Okay, Linnell is pulling up our favorite quote from,
I've used this in
go ahead,
yoga all week, the backwards law from Alan Watts. The idea that the more you pursue feeling better all the time, the less satisfied you become. As pursuing something only reinforces the fact that you lack it in the first place. So this seeking, this desiring, this striving, wanting something to go a certain way only reinforces you don't.
so this is what we mean by learning how the mind works. Okay, now we know striving is a part of fight or flight. Okay, you can't get to peace through fight or flight. Once you understand that, it's like, well, I should be able to get to California driving east. Well, yeah, mentally I can conceptualize that. Not going to happen. Okay. And that's why we talk about what's skillful, not what's right, not what's wrong, not what's good, not what's bad, what's skillful. Corinne?
I want to read Fra Giovanni's Christmas prayer.
Yes, we use it every year.
I salute you. There is nothing I can give you which you have not, but there is much that while I cannot give, you can take. No heaven can come to us unless our hearts find rest in it today. Take heaven. No peace lies in the future which is not hidden in the present moment. Take peace. The gloom of the world is but a shadow behind it, yet within our reach is joy. Take joy. And so at this Christmas time, Advent time, I greet you with the prayer that for you now and forever the day breaks and the shadows flee away.
Amen. It's said for 50 years at Christmas, one of my favorites. Okay. So again, all different traditions pointing us back here. Okay. So we think it's always everywhere except here. Why don't we see it? That's what we'll talk a little bit about next week. Yes, Drew.
Yeah, thank you for bringing this up about boredom being the step before enlightenment. That's I spend a lot of time with people who are busy talking and thinking and doing all those kinds of things. And sometimes I feel inadequate because I'm not contributing. I'm not part of the conversation. I'm just there. And that I understand the positive aspect of watching. That's what I guess I would ask. I think about Siddhartha. Siddhartha, in the book that Herman Hesse writes, he talks about I can wait, I can watch, and I can wait. And thank you for helping put that back in perspective for me.
You're welcome. And you'll hear me use the word Shenpa. If you want to get a good explanation of that, Pema Chodron wrote a book called Practicing Peace in Times of War. And she talks about it. It's a Tibetan Buddhist concept. And it's that feeling that I have to act, that feeling of urgency, like when you have an itch and you try to ignore it and you just go, oh my God, I'm going to lose my little baby shit if I don't scratch it. That is Shenpa, okay? And it doesn't matter whether it's attached to I've got to have something or I've got to avoid something. That's the emotional load that gets added on to what I'm experiencing right now in the moment. That's what my brain adds on, all right? All of that can be safely ignored. All that information that's being added on is coming from the traumatized part of your brain. It's giving you accurate information about your past and no information about the present. Okay, hear that. So what we learn to do here is to detox. So remember, you're either building strengthening neural pathways, or you're letting them die. Every time it's what you don't do here, okay? So you've heard this. What does it mean when someone came to study with a great master, and he said, I've come to study with you. I want to learn all your teachings. What do you have to teach me? He said, I'm not going to teach you anything. He said, then what are we going to do here? He says, I'm going to unlearn a bunch of stuff for you. What we're doing here is unlearning, okay? Unlearning that the trance state that we live in, that our brain is telling us is reality. Okay, these two are studying counseling here. Do they say that our view of reality is accurate? No, it's not. And one group says we're literally sleepwalking. I'll see if I can find that quote for you next time. That's what Jesus meant. We're like sleepwalkers. We're walking around in a world being generated by our brain that has, as Singer says in his book Untethered Soul, is only as connected to reality, keep us from bumping into the furniture. I love that phrase, but it does tell us about what's going on. So that longing in you, that longing is those memories of childhood when I was open and could spend hours doing no thing, just responding to the energies of the moment and delighting. I remember as a kid looking at a field of wildflowers and just bursting into tears because it was so beautiful, or a flower, just being transported. Go back to feel that intensely, that deeply. So that's the difference. We're not going to an outer world of fantastic experiences. We're going into the world in more depth, more openness, more connection, more vividness, more aliveness. Very different.
So I have a comment and a couple of questions, but they're very short answer questions. I've been looking for a place to kind of let my neurobiological self discover that world, because that's been my geek out for a long time, with survival mode, hormone regulation, dysregulation,
Yep.
especially
right
when it
place.
comes to gender spectrums. So the fact that was today was really fantastic for me. And so my counselor self is just like really beaming with some stuff. Second, is that Corinne from Shreveport?
Yes.
I love you, Corinne. I miss you so
It's
much.
Billy, Corinne. Go ahead.
And then the questions. So during the meditation part, because my body is ravaged with arthritis and bad diet and all this stuff, and so I'm trying to find a comfortable seating arrangement for myself, because I found myself it was very hard to settle enough.
Right.
So I need some help finding positions, because I didn't really know how much I could move during the meditation.
Good question.
And then the second question is, you were talking about the circuits. Are you also talking about the chemicals in the circuits that are, okay, I just want to make sure.
So the circuitry are the neural synapses.
Yes.
Okay,
Real
so
tape.
neurotransmitters, just so you know, why are neurotransmitters so fundamental? Because you got all these nerve endings, and they release stuff, send it over here, it connects to the other nerve on the other side, which is the receptor. It binds there for a while, and then it releases and it comes back. So you got a lot of options. There's a lot of options out here at these nerve ends of your neurons. That transmission is your experience. It's not something different. I remember the day when I was in treatment, and someone said, "What is an emotion?" And I went, "Well, happy, sad, angry." No, that's not what an emotion is. It's a chemical reaction in your body. We have all these fantasies about what it is, whether it's right, whether it's wrong. It ain't right or wrong. A chemical reaction isn't right or wrong. It's a chemical reaction. It's what your body's been trained to release. So, Billy, the question is, what are you training your body to do? So I can give you a whole wheel of neurotransmitters. And one of my favorite is anandamide. Anandamide is one of the most recent additions, and that's why our dog is named Nandi, Ananda. It means bliss. We discovered this neurotransmitter trying to figure out how pot worked, and we couldn't figure out what was the element in pot that worked. So we discovered what's called the cannabinoid receptor sites. There's a whole network in your body that affects things like your sense of taste that are related to this network. it's also related to bliss. So when you meditate, the reason smoking a joint feels like being after meditation is when you meditate, you release the bliss hormone. When you smoke a joint, it releases the joint hormone. So my teacher said it's not bad to smoke pot, but there are a lot of negative consequences that come from smoking pot that you don't get when you meditate. One of them is that I can meditate anywhere I am. I don't inhale it into my lungs. I don't have to pay for it. It's free.
Legal in every state.
Yeah. So that's good. Now, as far as posture, etiquette in the room. I know we're going close.
Yeah, that's okay. Go ahead.
Etiquette in the room is move in a way that doesn't draw attention to yourself. Okay. So you'll see people just very slowly. Don was doing some of that.
And he brought props
And
for
he
his
brought
knees.
props for his knees, so you can do that. I'll lift my seat up till I get to something that's comfortable, particularly when we're sitting
I can
13
show you
sessions a day.
different ways to sit.
But I
I'm
thought
sure
the same
Yulia
thing.
too.
Yeah.
The same, how do I?
Yeah, so finding, you're gonna have to experiment on your own at home. Always sit in a chair. Father Kennedy,
What about laying down?
It's
you can
okay.
laying down is fine.
Okay.
Okay, when you sit, you wanna sit with ease, but you wanna sit supported so you're not, because your body again is listening. So if I'm like this, I'm gonna fall asleep, okay? So the reason I'm doing this is my body, it gives a signal to my body, I'm alert, tilting the head slightly. There's reason behind everyone. Let me show you another one. Think about what you're doing when you bow after you sit. Pay attention to your body. What muscles release? The hips. What just got real tight while you're sitting? So you're basically doing a seated forward fold, so you loosen up before you receive the teachings, okay?
I wanted to mention with his meditation on movement, that if you haven't, take a look at Tai Chi.
Yes.
It is meditative movement.
Right.
It's not Indochicana, I was looking for.
We're gonna do Tai Chi. We're gonna do, yes.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I
So
study
Bart
Tai Chi.
is
So
studying
we're,
Tai Chi.
we're looking for a group to get together to do basics, okay? And you may be able to help me because I'm not a teacher, but I know enough to do some Qigong. So we'll do the energy stuff and, okay? So, all right, everybody,
Wow.
Omi.
Okay. 3 rounds of
I feel like I am sorry that my message was not congruent. The meeting was not congruent with the message. This has been a session teaching you to go.
Yeah.
So
It's true.
I realized the joke. I hope you get it too.
3 rounds of and a
Unmute
wow.
yourself if you'd like.
Okay.
No,
Oh,
Well,
we're
this
past
this is a temporary shift to honor a practitioner of
comrade.
ours. Okay, so deep breath in.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
Good. Yummy.
Yeah. We feel you, Tim.
Said yum.
Yes, we do.
I describe spiritual experiences in terms of food.
Buddy.
Category: yum, yummy, yumalicious, yumalilylicious. Who's my granddaughter?
Jesus Christ.
Love you guys. Have a good weekend.
We'll be back next Saturday.
Thank you.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.
Thank you, Bart Linnell.
You're
Thank
welcome,
you.
Cal.
Thank you so much. I hope y'all have a good week.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.